Hello everyone. Today I will present to you a very rare booklet issued 95 years ago in honor and memory of the Ilinden Uprising, which took place 25 years earlier. The brochure was released in July 1928 by the Kruševo Charity Brotherhood in Sofia on the occasion of the 25th anniversary of the uprising. The foreword was written by Mr. Naum Tomilevski, a well-known member of the Internal Macedonian Revolutionary Organization and a mayor of Kruševo at one point, and the cover art by Stefan Bajov, both active members of the Kruševo Brotherhood. As can be seen, the cover is slightly damaged, but still in a great condition, considering its age. The art on the cover shows the initial monument on the place of the Battle of Mechkin Kamen, or Bear's Stone, built by the Bulgarian administration during the First World War and demolished by the Serbian authorities afterwards. We can see beautiful, colorful drawing and traditional Macedonian folk embroidery symbols from both sides, which were common for books, calendars, and posters published by the Macedonian immigration organizations in Sofia. As we can see, the brochure is written in both Bulgarian and French languages. On the first page, we have the well-known illustration of the internal organization, which is a Bible, a dagger, and a revolver with text, "The Oath for Macedonia." On the second page follows the introduction text, a beautiful and touching message from the Kruševo Brotherhood to the younger generations of Macedonians. On the top of the page, we can see a picture of an insurgent who very much resembles Pitu Guli himself, along with the Kruševo flag. Neither does this original postcard confirm the identity of the person in the photo. Back to the introduction text, which reads the following. A quarter of a century has passed since the Ilinden Uprising, the largest in size and best organized rebellion in oppressed Macedonia. Ilinden is the most powerful manifestation of the Macedonian spirit in the struggle for political and national emancipation of Macedonians, and it also marked a new era in the history of the Balkan states, which brought the coup in Turkey and the wars that followed it. The Macedonian rebellion broke the peace of the Balkans 25 years ago. Countless people perished, streams of blood were shed, the well-being of an entire population was destroyed. And after so much suffering, which continues to this day, the Balkans are not yet pacified. This past Balkan horror, beside not bringing justice, it increased the trouble. The Macedonian question, which still remains the cause of the Balkan troubles, not only remained unresolved in the spirit of the desires of the Macedonians, political autonomy, in the name of which the Ilinden national uprising was waged, but the country became disorganized, divided, and enslaved. Today in Macedonia, more than ever, there are conditions of disquiet, bitter and bloody struggles, because the political and national freedoms of an entire nation are being trampled underfoot in the most brutal way. As before, the Macedonian people not only repudiate the violent foreign regime, but they also give unceasing resistance and countless sacrifices. Even today, the political ideal of the people is that of the Macedonian Revolution of 25 years ago, the autonomy. To this day, the national forces are gathering, organizing, awakening, preparing not only for unceasing resistance, but also for a national offensive in the favorable moment against the unwanted dominator. A new Ilinden, a new Macedonian revolution is being prepared. Ilinden did not bring the liberation of Macedonia, however, brought us closer to freedom. It forced the enemy to march in the direction of the retreats. Ilinden forced European politicians to seek a solution to the Macedonian question. The uprising ended with untold devastation and suffering, but it awakened the national conscience and raised the prestige of the people in their own eyes and in the eyes of the whole world. Through the Ilinden insurrection, through the struggles, Macedonia affirmed its right to free existence and self-government. Ilinden is the first day of the Macedonian political existence. It caused many fires, but these fires illuminated forever the path to Macedonian freedom, which will only be achieved through organized struggle, the only way that can bring Macedonia to the triumph it deserves. The Ilinden uprising was proclaimed throughout Macedonia, but there were areas and places where the rebellion was particularly strong. The center of the uprising was the Second Revolutionary District, Vilayet of Monastir or Bitola. The entire population of the Kostur district revolted. There, the struggle flared up in brilliant victories against the enemy, but ended in ashes and blood. However, 2 points in the district remain linked with the uprising very tightly. These are the villages of Smilevo, where the uprising was decided, and the town of Kruševo, the liberated town. Kruševo is the highest town in Macedonia. It is hidden in the middle of century-old forests under the Bušova Cheshma summit, the nest of old revolutionaries. This purely Christian town has never been inhabited by Turks. The national spirit lived and grew freely. The struggle for national independence began in 1886. Up there, near the eagles' nests, far from the main roads and the world, there were the best conditions to develop a revolutionary network widely and firmly, and to prepare for the great events of 1903. Kruševo gave the first victims during the Great Slaughter in 1881. The year 1893 marks the beginning of the systematically organizational activity. In a period of only few years, Kruševo gathered around itself as the center of the conspiracy, 35 villages. The struggle was persistent because it was waged on 3 fronts, namely against the Turkish terror, against the Greek Committee, and against the advancing Serbian propaganda inspired by Belgrade. In 1901, the entire revolutionary region of Kruševo fell victim to the Great Terror of the Turks, following the affair in the village of Rakitnica. In accordance with the decisions of the Revolutionary Congress, Ilinden's action had to be concentrated in the city itself. 10 revolutionary squads, detachments of insurgents, approximately 1,200 men, invaded the city during the night of July 20th and August 2nd and engaged fights with the oppressor. After midnight, the fight for freedom or death was announced to the world with fire shots and the ringing of the church bells. The next day, the enemy was defeated, and for 12 days the city was free, and it had its own government. But the little city trembled with evil forebodings about the end of its bold gesture. On August 3rd, Bakhtiar Pasha, the cruel peacemaker of the Albanians in Kosovo Vilayet, arrived with many troops and cannons and with all the concentrated forces, aided by the ferocious Bashibozuk army, he put an end to the Republic of Kruševo with fire and blood. The fighting was desperate and many men perished. The city was looted and burned and most of it was destroyed. During the terrible night, 159 houses, 210 shops, as well as the church St. Nicola were burned, and 117 people died, massacred or burned alive. The Kruševo emigration to Bulgaria, some of whom were eyewitnesses of the epic Ilinden, to express their feelings of veneration and admiration towards the heroes who lost their lives around the city, publishes this album to illustrate a part of the tragic events of Ilinden. The Brotherhood of Emigrants from Kruševo offers images to the young generation of the glorious past, so that it can revive in them the feelings of idealism and self-sacrifice which inspired, 25 years ago, self-sacrifice of the great deceased, warriors for Macedonian freedom. The following 2 pages have the same introduction text, except they are in French language. They also contain these 2 small images of Kruševo. Next, we have this hidden feature that I have almost missed, folded 2-page panoramic view of the town of Kruševo. Page number 11 shows portraits of the President of the Kruševo Republic, Nikola Karev and Velko Markov, with the text, "The Apostles of the Ilinden Epic in Kruševo." On the next page, we see a picture of the headquarters of the uprising in Kruševo and pictures of 2 dukes of Kruševo companies, Ivan Naumov and Andrei Dimov. On page 14 of the album, it's shown the house in which the uprising was announced. While on the next page, we see a location from where the uprising was directed and the picture with the flag of the uprising, which today is kept in a museum in Istanbul. On this page, we see the company of the voivode Ivan Naumov near Kruševo, followed by images of Gyurchin Naumov, Pitu Guli with caption The Bearstone Hero, and Yordan Silyanov. Next, we can see a beautiful picture of Kruševo, and with a little bit of magic, we can bring it into life with some colors. On page 19 are presented, I quote, the old rebels, Petr Petsanov and priest Ilya Chonev. Page 20 presents two women dressed in traditional costumes with caption, Bulgarian women's costumes from Kruševo. The photo on page 21 illustrates the terror that the local population was exposed to with the following description. Sometime before the uprising, this is how the people died. Father and son, family Bidanovi, blinded and killed. Page 22. The company of Todor Hristov near Kruševo. Page 23. Died for Macedonia. Stoiche Letnik on the left, Toma Niklev in the middle, and Atanas Karev on the right. Page 24. Died for Macedonia. Sotir Lozanov on the left, Grigor Kirstev in the middle, and Georgi Flagbearer on the right. Page 25. Views from Kruševo. Bulgarian Church of the Holy Virgin on the left and a typical street on the right. Page 26. Died for Macedonia. Deacon Sapina on the left, the Vlach Church of St. John, closed by the Serbs, and Pito Gionda on the right. Page 27 continues showing images of people who have died for Macedonia. Sotir Lazov, Mikhail Damov, and Velio Stefanov. On page 28 is visible the dead body of the Voivoda Blažej Krstev, while on the next one we see the type of architecture in Kruševo. Page 30. More pictures of people who have died for Macedonia, Traiche Avramov, Vela Sekulov, and Dimev. On the next page, we see the company of Voivoda Kosta near Kruševo. On this page, we can see the Bulgarian three-grade school St. Cyril and Methodius, renamed by the enslaving Serbs as King Peter, followed by two pictures of the city. The first one captioned as View of the City from Kioshka, and the second one, St. Peter Neighborhood. Page 34, the locality Kulice, which was the assembly point of the companies on the eve of the uprising. The company of the Voivoda Andrei Dimov, near Kruševo. On this page, we can see the burnt Turkish barracks, the place of the fiercest battle. Then, two photos descripting the monastery of St. Spas near Kruševo. On page 38, we can see the children of the fallen revolutionaries at the monastery St. Spas. Page 39, Harvest in the Field. Page 40, towards Mechkin Kamen, celebration of 15th anniversary of the uprising in Kruševo. Died for Macedonia. Teohar Neshkov on the left and Stavre Andreev with Kosta Bozhinov on the right. The Nest of the Revolutionaries, Bushova, Cheshma. On page 43, we see another picture with orphanages, the children of the fallen revolutionaries. Page 44, a corner of a Kruševo room. On this page, we can see the company of the Voivoda Marko Hristov, near Kruševo. Page 46, after the uprising, the burnt and bombed city, followed by the monument fountain at Mechkin Kamen, now collapsed by the Serbs. On this page, we can see remains of what used to be a grave of 8 prisoners from Kruševo, suspected of participating in the uprising, arrested and killed on the way to the prison in Bitola, near the village of Varosh, next to the church St. Atanasi. At the place of the tomb used to be a plaque placed by the villagers, but it was removed after the arrival of the Serbs. The inscription read, "Here rest the murdered from the town of Kruševo, Sotir Lozanov, 31, Georgi Lozanov, 22, sons of Lazar Lozanov, the saddler, Traiche Neshkov Avramovsky, 24, Vela Stevanov, 24, Andon Kuzmanov, 21 years old. They were killed on 2nd of August in the old style. This is how Nikola Kirov-Maisky, who is a contemporary of the Ilinden Uprising and the events related to it, describes this event. Page 50. The company of Pituguli in the village of Berino. The next image is showing in what state the local church was left after the revolt. The reconstruction of the Bulgarian school St. Kirill and Methodius, and part of the iconostasis in the Church of St. Nicholas burned during the uprising. Also died for Macedonia: Ivan Kotev, Kirste Atanasov, and Yane Pavlev. On page 56, we see a picture of a woman with text. The women as part of the plot, and one of the oldest houses in Kruševo. On the left, Miachka traditional costume, and on the right, Vlach men's national costume. Page 58. Laying a wreath at the monument at Mechkin Kamen, the location where great fighting took place on July 21st. The last page of the album, page 60, shows the home of the Kruševo emigration in Sofia.